MP1 Discussion. For your exercise number 1, create the content of the following items of the game design documentation: name of the game, design history, game overview, feature set, the game world, and the world layout. Name of the game. This page serves as the title page of your GDD, which includes the following: the company name or logo image, which can represent a made-up company for your game, name of your game, a one-line description of your game, author's name, version number, and date finished or submitted. Design history. The design history briefly explains the history of the document. The major and minor changes will be described and explained to the readers why such changes were made. After the main paragraph of the design history, the specific versions of the document will be described as well. Minor revisions will only add decimal values to the current version number, from version 1 to version 1.10 for example. Major revisions will always go up to the next whole number, from version 1.10 to version 2 for example. Game overview. The first section of the game overview are the philosophical points or game design goals of your game. Each philosophical point or game design goal will be briefly described and explain what your vision is or what you are trying to achieve with your game. Feel free to add more items in this section if needed. The next section will be about answering the common questions for your video game. Feel free to add questions that the reader might ask. Common questions include: what is the game? Describe the game in a short paragraph. Usually includes the game genre and subgenres, and brief introduction of characters and story. Why create this game? Explain the purpose of your game or reasons that support the need for your game. Where does the game take place? Brief description of the game setting. What do I control? Describes what the player mainly controls in the game. How many characters do I control? If the game allows to control multiple characters, explain the mechanism for switching the control to other characters. What is the main focus? Describe the main objective of the player in your game. What is different? Compare your game with other similar games in the market. Feature set. In this section, you will list all the features that your game will include. General features are present across the game. This is then followed by specific features such as multiplayer features, where you list features of your multiplayer modes if your game has them. Editor list will consist of world editing features or level creation if your game incorporates those features. Under the gameplay, you will list the most of the features in the game. This usually include players' gameplay experience from the game world and levels. The game world. Overview. Provide an overview to the game world. World features. Each item will be titled according to a major feature of the game world. This section usually describes the selling points of the game world. The physical world. If you have illustrations or visuals for the following, you can add them for each component. Overview. Overview of the physical world. Key locations. Describe key locations in the game world. Travel. Describe how the player moves around the game world. Scale. Describe the scale of the physical world. Objects. Describes objects that can be found in the world. Weather. If your game world has weather, you can describe all weather conditions present in the world. Day and night. If your game has a day and night cycle, describe its mechanics. Time. Describe how time will work in your game. Feel free to add more key components of the physical world that apply to your design. Rendering system. Overview. Overview of how the graphics will be rendered. 2D or 3D rendering. Describe the 2D or 3D rendering engines that will be used. Camera. Overview. Overview of camera behavior. Subsections will be added if camera details are complicated. Camera details. Describes the behavior of the camera during certain conditions. Game engine. Overview. General description of the game engine that will be used. Game engine details describes each of the specific uses of the game engine. Water, if your game has water, describe how the game engine will handle it. Collision detection describes how the game engine handles collisions. Lighting models, overview of the lighting model. Lighting model details describes each lighting technique that will be used. The world layout. If you have illustrations or visuals for the world layout, you can add them in this section. Overview of the world's layout usually describes the backgrounds that are used. World layout details describes each major detail about the layout, usually includes description of textures that will be used or changes that can happen in the world layout during gameplay. Reminders. This is an individual task and not to be done by groups. Please be mindful of the criteria below. The material used for this presentation was taken from a Microsoft Word file, a game design document template written by Chris Taylor. Thanks for listening.